Okay folks, so after the first day of laying blocks, let's go down here in the bunker, in the crypto bunker. We got the first 3 rows. The first row was obviously very critical, so I made sure that was very square, very level, very plumb. And we ended up not being able to use grout in between joints. So we did use the Loctite landscape adhesive, which is actually a lot stronger than grout anyway. And the only real drawback to doing that is that you're kind of not really waterproofing that area, because there's nothing in there all the way up, you know, because I'm not doing a whole line of landscape adhesive. I'm just using it as a bonding agent. But this whole thing is going to be encased in concrete anyway, because we're not planning on backfilling this. So when they fill the slab up top, which does the roof of the bunker, a lot of that concrete is going to flow out and actually fill this whole thing behind it. So it's all going to be sealed up anyway. But I think on the next blocks, what I will do is I'll probably just I'll do like a single line of sealant along each edge, which should help seal up, but to be honest, it's still not going to be 100%. So I'd rather use more surface area of sealant, and I make a big circle, kind of a spiral, and then push them together, and I let them slide on each other on the way down, so it helps them. But they're super solid today. But I wanted to share with you a quick idea that I had. So on these rows, the next row we're putting in is essentially going to have a block that has to be cut to fill in the gap, because since these are 6-inch wide blocks, and you guys need to understand that since the block is 6-inch wide and everything else is 8 or 16, so everything's divisible by 8, the cells aren't going to line up when you're building a square, you know, or anything with an angle, because you're traveling 6 inches to the edge, but then when you switch to the next row and you stagger, you now only have 6 inches to work with instead of 8, so they're not going to line up. So if you look down, you're going to be off on all of them, and then what happens also is you end up with a brick that's hanging out on each end, which I favored on the side that I had more room on. So just be aware that those bricks that are hanging out will essentially become leaks for concrete. So we're gonna have to spray foam those or something just to make sure the concrete doesn't leak out, because we definitely want to pour concrete through the center, or through the corners. But the idea over here is that, so on the next row we are going to have a cut section here that's about 4 inches wide, and we are using 4-inch PVC, but what I wanted to do is make kind of a leach drain, so in case you had to use the facilities in your bunker, you could. So this is essentially just going to be a pipe that's going out to the wall with just a clean out, so a plug here, and then this pipe will have holes in it, so it'll be able to leach, but it'll also run all the way down to this corner, and this corner is really thin on the concrete, so I'll jackhammer that out, and it'll have access to the dirt that's underneath the bunker also. So if there ever really was like a survival situation where you needed to, you know, pee in here, or possibly even poop in here, I guess, you could essentially poop in something and dump it through the wall, and it would leach, and you could cap it, and it would give at least, you know, give you a little while without having obviously a bucket of poop and pee inside your bunker. But it would definitely work for peeing, because you could obviously you know, depending on how much water you have, and also we are going to be plumbing water into here too, just because we might as well. So you could flush that every time you used it, so it's gonna dilute. So I just thought it'd be a cool idea. I mean, it's one of those things where even if it's not a good idea, you can always just leave the cap in it and never use it. Or if it is a good idea, you have to do it now while you're thinking about it and before you concrete all this stuff in, because if you do it after, you ain't gonna do it. So, but I thought it was kind of a cool feature, figured we'd give it a shot. So we're gonna try that. And yeah, other than that, I'm gonna start cranking away and adding more bricks. The next row that we put in, I'm going to put rebar in. So we'll put some of the blocks, I think a third of the blocks that we ordered up there have a notch in the bottom of them. Like if these were upside down, the notch would be here. And that's to allow you to put rebar in. So we're gonna put basically a hoop of rebar around that area, and then we'll put in the next row of brick, and we'll put that cutout. We're gonna have to cut out for that, but we won't need to cut out for that because we're gonna fill it with a 4-inch pipe. So hopefully some of that made sense. It's gonna kind of suck to have that 4-inch pipe against the wall. But to be honest, if there really is a situation where you need to use it, you're gonna have to use a funnel of some kind anyway to dump stuff in there, because obviously the ladies aren't gonna be able to use it anyway. So it's not really gonna matter. What I'll end up doing is making like a funnel attachment that just kind of plugs in there, or maybe screws in there, that comes out from the wall in case you need to use it, and that'll be it. So but I wanted it down low enough to where we could all get to it easily, and I wanted it up high enough to where there was room for everything to kind of leach down without, you know, you don't want it on the floor and then everything's kind of leaching flat. You want to have some head pressure on your leach area to kind of help it leach. So hopefully that makes sense. And we'll switch over to the time lapse. I am not doing good today. Like, my hands are cracked, my hands are super sore, my feet hurt from being just crouched with my feet folded up doing all the lower level bricks, and then obviously mixing grout, carrying that down, moving bricks over to here. I've been lining all the bricks up on the edge so that way I can just pull them off there. But obviously everything's over your head, so your neck and your traps kind of get worked a little bit, which is good. I mean, I'm not like injured per se, but I'm definitely sore. So if you are gonna do a project like this, set aside a few days and grab some friends, you know, let them buy their way into the bunker. Because I'll tell you right now, dude, this thing is so much work. Nobody's getting saved in here if they haven't helped me. So there's basically me and my family and my neighbor and his family, and that's it. So my neighbor was lucky enough, or nice enough, to help me do the slab, which came out really, really nice. So I'm excited about that. And then obviously after all of this is done, we are gonna dry lock the entire thing. So even if we do not have a lot of waterproofing on the outside with the concrete flowing, or there's not enough room for concrete to really get back there, the dry lock will seal all that up. So we'll keep cranking away on this. am very sore today. My hands are falling apart, my feet are falling apart, my back is not happy. But we got a lot of work done on the bunker, obviously. We're up 7 rows of cinder block. We've done 2 hoops in there. One of the rows of cinder block for the hoops, we actually didn't have enough notched blocks, so I had to notch them by hand with a hammer. So that wasn't particularly awesome, and that was the last row that we put on. There's a hoop all the way around. At this point, what I would like to do is I'm gonna take some 7-foot sticks of rebar and just drop them into the cinder block columns that don't have any rebar in them. Just because we have rebar, we might as well just at least drop them in there. It'll give some strength. It certainly can't hurt. And I need to fill these walls at least a little more than halfway up with concrete. So the idea here, and the reason I didn't stop halfway and then fill there, was because I wanted to get like a real gradual angle on the slide. The little slide that we made to fill when we did the slab, we used the little chute to put the concrete down in there. But if the wall's up a little higher like it is now, the angle won't be so crazy and I can just move it around by hand. So I'm hoping that now that the wall has set, it's actually really stiff. I've already been walking around on it, so that shouldn't move. And then we can just set the chute on top at a slight angle, and I can literally just mix up bags in the concrete mixer over there and dump those down the chute and hopefully fill up some of the cavities in the wall to give the wall some strength. And it's just better to fill as much as you can now so you don't end up with pockets in there that you can't really get to. At least now you can take a piece of rebar and kind of run it up and down in there to force the concrete down. But we'll mix it super wet so it'll flow down there pretty well. And then we have these overhanging blocks on the end. So I'm not sure what we'll do there. We might just shove a 2x4 through there and then just fill everything and call it good. I was planning on kind of just backfilling this whole thing with concrete, but I honestly don't know how far down the concrete would even go. I know over there it wouldn't really flow very well, but who knows? I'm sure we'll end up just kind of cranking concrete in there anyway. So we'll see how all this turns out, and I'll switch you guys over to the time lapse and you can watch. I'm going to cut up some rebar pieces first, and we'll throw those in there, and hopefully the rebar pieces will actually give me something to kind of to keep the slide from pushing away from the wall also. So yeah, we'll just keep cranking away at it. We want to make sure that we leave enough rebar out of the wall with no filler to give us enough room to where we can tie back into the wall to run the cross sections of rebar through the roof of the bunker. So that's why we're only going to fill the wall a little more than halfway. We'll probably go up 5 bricks full of something or something like that. So that's the project for today. I'm not excited about it, but you know, once it's done and it sets up, this thing's going to be friggin' bulletproof, you know, for until we finish. So we don't have to worry about anything moving, especially when they go to pour the concrete. They can fill the last parts of the wall when they pour the upper roof, because you're only going to be filling half the wall instead of filling the whole wall and have concrete pushing from the outside in. So now we're kind of limiting the kind of stresses on the wall at least. So I'll keep you guys posted.